So I am Jordan Thorne. I am the editorial content manager with Leaders Live. And today we're joined by Paul Gaudette. He's the CEO of Dig Insights. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So Paul, can you tell me a bit about your role as CEO of Dig Insights? What are you finding most exciting about the work your company has been doing recently?
Sure, yeah, and actually, so my role as CEO is actually fairly new. Me and along with my three partners have been running our company for the last 11 years, and late last year we actually decided to have some dedicated roles with one of them, Dominic Atkinson, working on the consulting side, Ian Ash on the technology side that I'll speak to, Michael Edwards as our Chief Growth Officer, and myself as CEO. And really my role is around executing our strategy, leveraging tech to build better, smarter tools, and really developing new approaches to uncovering insights. I think what's great is I've been able to actually spend a lot of time talking to industry experts, other CEOs, clients about our story, hearing about theirs, making sure that we're really developing the best solutions for our clients. And I'm really excited about the evolution of our industry overall from what I'm hearing. We work with some amazingly smart people at our company, and just to think about the different people that we've hired over the last 11 years, how those skills have really changed. We're hiring developers, software developers, the data scientists, behavioral scientists. It's really just, has changed so much, and I'm super proud to be working with such a talented group. And I think for that's why I'm most excited about our company's innovative approach to creating, experimenting, and developing new ways to gain insights. I think my business partner, Michael Edwards, who's our Chief Growth Officer, really coined it nicely. He called it, reinventing the language of market research, and I think that really resonates. Market research for a long time has asked the same old boring questions, the same old ways of answering them, and we're building approaches and even adding features to our SaaS platform, Upside, which I'll talk more about later, with that idea of reinvention really in mind.
Yeah, that sounds really exciting. Tell me a little bit about the insights and research agencies right now. How are they leveraging technologies at the moment? Is there any technologies that have been able to improve their clients' experiences with research and insights outputs?
Yeah, actually, I think it's a complicated question, because I think we need to think about ways in which we can leverage technology as an industry, and we need to think about it in a couple of different ways. I don't know that a lot of agencies are. I know we are. And I know others are, but I know that there's many who are not. And I think if we think about technology in two key ways, one is to really understand how consumers are interacting with technology, because that allows us to really create some approaches and solutions that make the respondent experience relevant and easy, but also can generate amazing insights. I'll give you an example. Okay. So last year we created a mobile food diary, and really we were just trying to track everyone's food consumption occasions. And we created an API link to a food database with menu items and ingredients and calorie counts, et cetera. So you're filling in a diary, but really you're basically mimicking your experience as if you would filling in, MyFitnessPal app, for example, to track your caloric intake. And I think it's a very easy way to leverage what exists to make the respondent experience better. And that also comes with an amazing amount of rich data. I think another example, I'll talk about our Upside platform, which started with a very simple swiping exercise to help prioritize ideas. The whole basis was, how can we leverage the way consumers are interacting with their phones, the devices they have on hand all the time, and create approaches that really mimics the way that consumers are using that technology. I think the other aspect of technology that we need to be, research agencies really need to be mindful of, and I know one that we're really focused on, is how clients are using technology.
Yeah.
So the consumers and then the clients. Clients are using technologies and other business intelligence tools to gather, interpret, display information, whether it's dashboards or data visualizations, even internal collaboration tools. I think the clients are being exposed to like a variety of technologies all the time. And so we need to be mindful of this as we're delivering our services, how our tools, software outputs, et cetera, how that can be interpreted and understood. Our data visualizations have always been a big focus for us at Dig. It's something that we continue to leverage and develop new ways of delivering insights to our clients. And even related to that is the speed in which clients are even getting information. So even with the advances in technology and what they're exposed to, comes the speed of the information. Whether it's greater access to insights or something like that, we need to be mindful of. They need the information so that they can make the decisions quicker, and And so there's pressure on, I think, everybody, all organizations, to be agile, innovate quickly, adapt, leverage technology, and the demands of insights is no different. So we need to be on top of that as well.
So has Dig been working on any new innovations or planning anything new for the coming year?
I mean, we plan and we innovate like kind of constantly, whether it's new analytics tools for our internal teams to use while analyzing data, or data visualizations that we build for our clients, even just innovative approaches to old methodologies. It's something that we're actively prioritizing. I've mentioned that we built our own innovation insight software platform called Upside that really encapsulates that idea of reinvention I mentioned. This year, we're expanding a ton of features and capabilities to that Upside platform. Greater data modeling, data integration, ways we can make it easier for clients to use and provide rich insights. We're focusing a lot on the user experience, making that platform really easy for anyone to use it, to create an approach, gather information, interpret the information. I find a lot of companies in this research technology space are focused on speed and features, not necessarily really thinking about that client experience and how to make it as great as possible. And that's one area that we've heard is critical and one we're making big improvements on. We're also allowing clients, enabling them to really create their own approaches using that platform, standardizing an approach, whether it's a concept test or any sort of methodology, and scale it so that they can release it across their organization and make sure that that process is relevant for them and their business. And I think it's kind of complicated, but a final characteristic or feature that we're having that platform is really related to source of volume information. So I talk about it being an innovation platform. And source of volume is such a key aspect to understand where your innovation may source volume from. I understand who it competes most with, really helping to know if that innovation is incremental to product portfolio or not. And that's always been a big thing for us to really focus our analytics on how is it actually impacting the business. And so all the things that we're releasing onto this platform, I really have that in mind. So yeah, lots of new innovations coming out of Dig that you'll see more of this year for sure.
So can you talk me through some of the exciting Dig tools and methodologies that your teams are currently using with your clients?
Yeah, so a bunch of innovation testing through our Upside platform that I mentioned. So you can get results in our platform in as little as 15 minutes, which lends itself amazingly to things like innovation sprints or rapid brainstorming sessions where you're co-creating, testing, and getting that feedback all within the same day. So some really, really amazing things that we're doing with our Upside platform to get those speed to results. Another aspect, we have a virtual market and a virtual menu approach. So these are, again, when I say virtual, it's a online survey that mimics an environment. So whether it's shopping online or shopping in a restaurant, and these are, the whole purpose of them is really to create these experimental designs to understand the impact of an innovation to the market. So before you even have to develop anything, you do a virtual market test and assessment and see whether or not your product is, getting incremental reach or is cannibalizing or, including that source of volume information that I discussed. Diaries, again, whether it's food, cannabis, lockdown habits during COVID, having those interactive diaries that can link to external tools through APIs that I talked about earlier, is really successful for our clients. I think some of the other, I'd say, methodologies is really our qualitative approaches as well. We've actually expanded our qualitative offering, and we're developing tools that really mimic social media platforms that we're used for getting more in the moment feedback. Think like Instagram stories, for example. So some of those approaches that we have. I think some of the tools. I mean, we've always been known for creating our own simulators or toolkits, and actually whether it's natural language processing tool that helps for coding or a turf simulator, some complicated stuff. We're actually packaging that up now and going to be able to offer that to our end clients to be able to use as well. So not only are we using that internally, but we're also creating and allowing clients to access that afterwards as well. So we're actually actively seeing how we can create tools, not only just for us to use, but also that can be accessed by others.
It's incredible. Do you find that with the sort of the COVID year that we've had, that a lot of these methodologies and some of the tools have kind of sped up the need for more kind of development in that area?
I think from a need for information quickly. So going back to that idea of speed, access to information as quickly as possible has always been a key. It's always kind of been a big driver for our industry, but it's been even further increased by the pressures from COVID and the change in consumer behaviors over these last year now that we've been in lockdown. So yeah, absolutely. There's I think there's a need for developing these approaches that are sophisticated, but also that can deliver insights quickly, so that we can actually do these more frequently, and really lower the value, the cost of them. So they're high value, but they don't cost a lot of money, so that we can do these over and over again, because consumer behaviors are changing so quickly, so rapidly. They're in flux right now. So yeah, we've definitely seen some pressures on us to kind of create more agile methodologies that we're using more frequently.
Yeah, makes sense. And can you tell us a consumer trend or prediction business leaders really shouldn't ignore right now?
Yeah, well, I kind of just referenced it there about the idea that, for the next couple of years, consumers are going to be all over the place. Whether it's, feelings of uncertainty or high levels of experimentation, or just, reactionary spending. I think, just they're going to be all over the place, mostly because we haven't really figured out what normal is going to look like. A lot of times we don't even figure out what we want normal to look like.
Yeah.
I think, obviously that varies by region. From where you are versus where I am, even just the considerations of lockdown are different, but trends very easily transfer from one to the other. So I think businesses need to be laser focused on, the changing behaviors of the consumer, and not to expect those behaviors to stabilize for some time. I think, consumers, another aspect of it, the consumer is really just trying to find themselves right now in the products that they buy, the brands they associate with, and the life they want to live. We're seeing it more and more. Brands are starting to engage directly with the consumer, and the consumers, having more choice of which brands they want to associate with. So there's more, kind of, I guess, need for personalization from the consumer, but there's also a need for purpose with the brands that they buy. So I think that's another big thing and a big consideration to have. I looked at how, brands typically used to compete with each other at retail when we used to do a lot of retail work. And a lot of it was like competing for space and attention on shelf and making sure you can get in front of the consumer. And now, everyone's competing on social media, and everyone's going direct to consumer. And so now you have this idea of smaller brands really competing with those larger brands. And so that's another way in which, the consumer choice is just really rapidly expanded. And we actually have a report coming out on that in the next week or so that we'd be happy to share. So yeah, so I think consumers, just overall, their behaviors are going to be in flux for a couple of years. I think businesses really need to stay on top of it. They need to respond as necessary before things really start to stabilize. And I think because of this, businesses and even business leaders, they're going to require quick, frequent check-ins on the consumer.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to provide them with the ease of insight so that they can make quick decisions as soon as possible. So that's the big thing coming out for the next couple of years for sure.
Yeah, that's perfect. And just a quick follow-up to that. So is it your tools, essentially your platform? I guess I imagine that would actually be really helpful to some of the smaller brands who need some of that quicker, maybe less costly insight that some of the bigger brands tend to have.
Yeah, and I think that's a key point. I'm glad you raised. I think, for a long time, and we actually get calls frequently from smaller brands who just say, do you have a solution for us that can help us get quick access to insights, meaningful insights, but that don't typically have the market research budgets that are required for it. And we've built this tool specifically to kind of democratize market research, give it greater access to more people, because there is such a, I'd say, a plethora of new brands and new companies that are starting, startup companies that are, people are starting out their own companies, whether it's a food brand or a clothing brand, because it's a lot easier for them to do that now because they have access to money, a lot of different tools. But one thing they don't have access to often is actually consumer insights, because it's, typically it's very, very expensive. So our platform is an easy way to get competitive intelligence. It's an easy way to understand how your product or your service stacks up against the competitive offers, what you can stand for, and how you can really optimize it. And I think, offering that at great value through this platform, through a license, something that you can easily access respondents, or send it out to your own customer list to take a survey. is something that we're super proud of, that we've been able to kind of give access to smaller and medium-sized companies who normally wouldn't have access to those insights.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's very important. So it's exciting, exciting work that you're doing. So Paul, there seems to be a ton of survey platforms at the moment. What makes Dig's platform unique?
Well, thanks for asking. Yeah, so our Upside platform, it's something that we started a few years ago developing. And again, I talk about this kind of idea of reinvention. What we found is that there was a race for building, survey platforms, tools, automating research, and a lot of that automation came from really just automating old, boring research methodologies. How can I take an old concept test and really just, automate it and visualize it and put it on a dashboard? And we took a different spin on things. We said, let's use our analytics knowledge. Let's use our expertise in trade-off methodologies. Let's create an approach that is very simplistic, but has the sophistication that we're known for. And so when we created our Upside method, really, again, it was around just like simple swiping and trade-offs to prioritize ideas. And we've since taken that kind of idea of simplification, easy to use, customer experience, user experience, and expanded the whole platform with that in mind. How can we come up with new ideas that are really leveraging technology in the way consumers are using it today? How can we speak to clients in the way that they understand business metrics? So things like incrementality and cannibalization. How can we make things easier for them so that we're giving them information that they say, yeah, I get it right away. I understand what the answer is, as opposed to now I have to figure out how to interpret this data. So, the idea of how are we different from everything else that we've seen, it really comes down to our use of technology, our way of displaying the information, making the insights actionable, and again, it's housed in legitimacy and the knowledge of the whole staff that's created this tool.
Well, I think that's all for today. Paul, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Jordan. Thanks for having me.